want to give joyfully, not out of obligation. That's why you won't see us pass a plate or anything like that. Instead, there's a couple different ways you can give. You can give at the wall boxes located on the wall at each worship center entrance, or you can give online at redemptionin.com/give or through our app. You can search Redemption Christian Church anywhere you download apps. And from there, you can give as a one-time gift, or you can set that up recurring if you plan to give on a regular basis.
What's up, Redemption? I hope you're having some good conversations and coffee out in the lobby. The service is about to start, so go ahead and grab one more cup of coffee and come on into the worship center and grab a seat.
Hey, we are so glad that you're here with us this morning. I'm convinced that this place is better because of you. That's because the church is not just a building that we enter or a video that we watch online. It's who we are. It's the people. And as a church, we are called to serve. Serving is also one of the best ways to get connected at Redemption. From serving coffee, welcoming guests, or helping on our tech team, there are countless ways to get involved at Redemption, help remove barriers, and also deepen your walk with Christ. If you're interested in getting involved in this great opportunity, stop by the Next Steps table in the lobby or online at redemptionin.com/register and click on Serve.
Generosity is one thing we value at Redemption. We want to be known as the most generous people around because we give in a way that only makes sense in light of how much God has given us. And we want to give joyfully, not out of obligation. That's why you won't see us pass a plate or anything like that. Instead, there's a couple different ways you can give. You can give at the wall boxes located on the wall at each worship center entrance, or you can give online at redemptionin.com/give or through our app. You can search Redemption Christian Church anywhere you download apps. And from there, you can give as a one-time gift, or you can set that up recurring if you plan to give on a regular basis.
Students in middle school and high school, we want to invite you to join us on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30 at either one of our campuses. We join together for student groups, we worship and we learn from the Bible together, and we have a ton of food and fun. For more information, you can go to our website, redemptionfamilies.com. We hope to see you soon.
Hey, welcome to Redemption. We're so glad that you're here. We want to do everything that we can to make this place feel like home. So whether you're a child or you're a high schooler, middle schooler, or an adult, we want to help you connect. So before you leave today, we'd love it if you'd stop by the Next Steps Hub. There'd be somebody there that'll help you to answer questions or help just get you involved. So they might be able to help you with your first step here at Redemption or your next step at Redemption.
Hey, we are so glad that you're here with us this morning. I'm convinced that this place is better because of you. That's because the church is not just a building that we enter or a video that we watch online. It's who we are. It's the people. And as a church, we are called to serve. Serving is also one of the best ways to get connected at Redemption. From serving coffee, welcoming guests, or helping on our tech team, there are countless ways to get involved at Redemption, help remove barriers, and also deepen your walk with Christ. If you're interested in getting involved in this great opportunity, stop by the Next Steps table in the lobby or online at redemptionin.com/register and click on Serve.
Generosity is one thing we value at Redemption. We want to be known as the most generous people around because we give in a way that only makes sense in light of how much God has given us. And we want to give joyfully, not out of obligation. That's why you won't see us pass a plate or anything like that. Instead, there's a couple different ways you can give. You can give at the wall boxes located on the wall at each worship center entrance, or you can give online at redemptionin.com/give or through our app. You can search Redemption Christian Church anywhere you download apps. And from there, you can give as a one-time gift, or you can set it up recurring if you plan to give on a regular basis.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see y'all here today. If you're watching with us online, let's stand up off the couch, if you will. And it's good to, and everybody in here, let's stand up as well. But we came in as the church scattered, and now we're the church gathered, and it's a great privilege to be able to worship with our brothers and sisters, worship God together. Romans chapter 8 tells us this good news. It says, "So now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. And because you belong to him, the power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death." And that's good news, church, in the word of the Lord. Amen. Let's sing together.
wrestle with the sinner's restless heart. You lead us by still waters into mercy, and nothing can keep us apart. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Great is your love and justice, God. You use the weak to lead the strong. You lead us in the song of your salvation, and all your people sing along. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, Your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough, heaven reaching down to us. Your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough. I'm covered in your love. Your grace is enough for me. For me.
Sing together, church, come on. You raised us up from the ground, the Spirit's call rang out the sound, provided faith that brings belief. Our work alone can't bring relief. We heard the call that drew us near, your power in us, no death we fear. Guilt and shame gone from this life, hope beyond the strife. And know before we were bound by law. Now we know, Son took the fall. So we will never be forsaken all the way you have taken. Freedom song is our cry, a freedom song that will never die. Since we live by the Spirit, open ears so we can hear it. Humble hearts toward one another, burden shared with each other. Boasting not in what we've done, Christ crucified, still to come. There's hope we have for our life, there's joy beyond the strife. And know before we were bound by law, but now we know the Son took the fall. Now we will never be forsaken all the way you have taken. Freedom song is our cry, a freedom song that will never die. You will never leave us hopeless through your word. We will know this freedom song is our cry, a freedom song that will never die. That's good news. All right, church, let's sing this out together with confidence. We will never be forsaken all the way you have taken. Freedom song is our cry, a freedom song that will never die. You will never leave us hopeless through your word. We will know this freedom song is our cry, a freedom song that will never die. Freedom song is our cry, freedom song that will never die.
All right, good morning. You can go ahead and take a seat. All right. Good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us if you're on the live stream. And if this is your first time here or you're just visiting, we'd love to meet you out in the lobby after service. We'll be out and about. Just take a second and do that. That would be awesome. And speaking of awesome, we've had a great couple weeks, a great week this week. Easter services were awesome. Last week we had a great day yesterday with Ladies Alive. They filled the room and you can clap for that because it was an awesome day. Everyone that put that together did a great job with that, and it was so wonderful, and seeing so many people out, it was great. And now, guys, it's our turn. So if you tune LG out today, it's fine. Don't tune me out on this. Men's Advance is coming back. So mark your calendars for May 14th and 15th. We're going back out to Cool Springs. We're going to connect with each other, connect with God, connect with nature, and just do guy stuff. We're going to talk to God out there. We're going to camp. We're going to shoot guns. We're going to fish. We're going to throw axes. We're going to eat meat. And just an example of this in their meeting, they're like, okay, what are we going to do for dinner Friday night? They said, okay, we're going to roast a hog. I'm like, that's cool. We got to have sides. What do we want for sides? LG said, bacon. So that's what we're doing. But you can try redemptionin.com/register. Check that out again, May 14th and 15th. So check out the screen. We'll get started with our mantras series.
So just after Jesus finishes the Last Supper, this is the last meal that he was going to have before he'd go and be crucified. And so he and his disciples kind of finish up and they begin walking towards the Garden of Gethsemane. And as they're walking, Jesus knows everything that lies ahead of him. He knows that in the morning he's going to be arrested. He knows that he's going to be questioned and betrayed, and he's going to be ridiculed and beaten and whipped, and eventually he's going to be nailed to a cross. He knows all of that. He also knows everything that lies ahead of his disciples. That following this, they're going to be given this huge mission, the Great Commission, to take the gospel message to the ends of the earth. And he knows that they're going to face all sorts of persecution, that they're going to be ridiculed, that they're going to be mocked, that they're going to be looked down upon, that they're going to be arrested and beaten, and that all but one of them is going to be martyred because of their faith. Jesus knows all of that. And so I think as he's walking with his disciples, all of that stuff was probably on his mind. And I think he was trying to figure out what he could say to them that was going to stick with them through all of that. What he could say to them that would inspire them to keep going even when things were really, really hard. And I think that what Jesus says to them is the same thing that Jesus says to us, the same thing that Jesus says to our church. You see, Jesus was a master teacher and storyteller, and he loved to use these mantras and metaphors, right? Just simple words and simple phrases to paint a picture. And these pictures that Jesus would paint are filled with all sorts of deep meaning and just applications that would change people's lives. And so much so that 2,000 years later, we still haven't exhausted everything that this man said and taught. And so he would use these metaphors and these mantras, things like he'd say, you are the salt of the earth, right? Or you are the light of the world. You're a city on a hill that can't be hidden. And he would use these sort of mantras and metaphors to help people understand who they are. Because once they know who they are, then they would know what to do. See, that's why so many athletes and teams use mantras today, little things that they'll chant, phrases they'll repeat over and over and over again, because these mantras help them to do things differently, right? They inspire them to keep going even when they feel like quitting. It reminds them who they are and what they're about. And so one of my favorite mantras that I've heard teams use, it comes from a TV show called Friday Night Lights. I don't know, anybody in here, anybody ever watched that TV show? This was one of my favorites, all right? A few years ago, it was really popular, and it's all about high school football down in West Texas, right? It's the Dillon Panthers. It's all about football, and so I loved this show. And they had this mantra that they would repeat. So if they, before every game, or if they were down at halftime, or if, it was just some adversity they were facing, somebody's girlfriend broke up with them, whatever was going on, right? Like they would use this mantra to kind of rally the team together, to inspire them. And so they'd get together and they'd repeat it. They'd say, clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. Right? And I thought that was so cool. And they used this throughout the show as sort of their rallying cry. And so I'd watch, and the coach, Coach Taylor, he would come and he would give this big dramatic speech, and it was awesome, right? Like whatever was going on, he'd give this speech, and the team, the team's on the edge of their chairs, and I'm at home and I'm on the edge of my couch, and I'm watching this, and we're all like, your heart's beating, you're pumping, and he would end this speech with that mantra, right? He would repeat it. He'd say, clear eyes, full hearts, and the whole team would just yell it out. Can't lose, right? And they'd say this over and over again. So at the end of that, man, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to run through a wall. Like, I'm like, let's go, Coach Taylor, put me in. I'm ready to do this. Let's get it going. But this is what teams do, not just on television, but in real life as teams and athletes, they'll repeat these mantras over and over. They are. And that's so important, right? Because when you know who you are, then you are. They remind us what we're about. They remind us the truth, and they keep us going even when we feel like quitting. All right, but the difference is that our mantras aren't just really cutesy kind of sayings, all right? They aren't just inspirational quotes or things like the power to transform our church and our mission and what we do, but they can also transform your family and your life and what you do. So again, over the next 5 weeks, we're going to be looking at these and talking about them. But the very first one, right, the first mantra that we're going to look at comes from John chapter 15, verse 5. Check out what Jesus says. It says, yes, I'm the vine and you are the branches, and those who remain in me and I in them will produce much branch. Be the branch. And now remember, right, when Jesus is saying this, he's walking with his disciples, right? They're on a walk, they're going to the Garden of Gethsemane, and along the mantra he's repeating over and over again, remain in me, because he knows, all right, for you to inspire them, because they have this huge mission that they have to do, right? Instead, he reminds them who they are, right? He gives them this mantra, he gives them this metaphor. He says, I'm the vine, and you are the branches. See, he reminds them who they are because, again, he knows if he can make them understand who they are, then they'll know what to do. And so again, over the next few weeks, all right, as a church, we're going to be talking about some really big things that we feel called to do. Some really big things that we feel like God has put in front of us as a church to go after, all right? But we didn't want to start with the things that we do because it has to start with who we are. And so we wanted to make sure that this very first mantra that we're looking at as a church begins with a really important word. It begins with that word, be, right? Be the branch. Be the branch. Stay connected to Jesus and watch him grow you, all right? That's our very first mantra. Now, we've all throughout our lives probably had some different mantras, some different things that we live by. And I know for me, when I was growing up as a kid, I had a different mantra. All right? And it was basically the same mantra that every kid my age in the world had back then. The mantra was be like Mike. Right? We all wanted to be like Michael Jordan. Everybody wanted to be like Mike, right? And so they even had these posters you could put up that said, be like Mike, and they had these commercials. Gatorade did one of these commercials that kind of told us to be like Mike. It had this really kind of cheesy music in it, but I love it. I bet a lot of you guys remember this. And so I wanted to show it to you this morning. If you would check out the screens and watch this commercial on how to be like Mike.
Sometimes I dream that he is me. You got to see that's how I dream to be.
I dream I move,
I dream I groove.
like Mike. If I could be like Mike.
Oh, if I could be like Mike.
Like Mike.
If I could be like
If I could be like Mike.
wasn't that awesome? Right? Like, I didn't know for sure if we're gonna be able to show that video. My backup plan was I was just gonna sing that song. Like Mike, you know, couldn't really get the high part. I was struggling with that, so glad we got the video. But that was the mantra, right? Like, everybody wanted to be like Mike. And they told you, right? If you can get the jersey, if you can get the shoes, if you drink the Gatorade, right? Like, you can be like Mike. And so, guys, I did it, all right? Like, I went out and I had the jersey. And I had the shoes, and I was drinking the Gatorade, and let me tell you, all right, it does not work. Middle school me was like rocking that stuff, and I had my tongue out, and I was driving the lane, and I was just bricking layups, like, you know, not like Mike, all right? And here's the reason why, all right, is because all of that stuff, all right, the shoes, the jerseys, the hats, the Gatorade, all that stuff didn't have the power to actually make me be like Mike. All right, but what Jesus is telling us, guys, this is different. All right, he says when he's the vine and we're the branch. Right? And if we stay connected to him, see, there's actual power in that. There's actual power in that to help you to be like Jesus. There's power in that. And see, for the last 2,000 plus years, right, starting with the very first disciples all the way up to today, all right, that is the power that has always moved the church. There's power in that. See, that's the reason that for us at this church, all right, our primary focus will never be on production, but on connection. Because when you're connected, and that leads to production. That's what leads to production. So often, it's really easy for us to get this backwards. We start focusing on the production part. We pretend like production depends on us. I mean, that's always wrong. That never goes well. And I make this same mistake. So often, people will ask me, because of what my job is, they'll be like, hey, do you get nervous when you have to preach? Or you feel like pressure when you talk in front of people? And honestly, I do. Every single time before I go on stage, I get really nervous. And it used to be way worse, right? Like when I first started getting up in front of people, like I'd be so nervous. I'd be like panic attack level. Like I thought I was going to throw up, just couldn't handle it. Like it was so much. And so like over the years, it's gotten a little bit better. It's not so overwhelming anymore, but I still get nervous, right? The only time that it's overwhelming is when I stop being the branch. And here's what I mean by that, right, is that the branch knows that production depends on the vine. But when I stop being the branch, I start thinking that production depends on me. And so I start thinking that it depends on me for people to be fed when they come to church and to get something out of it. Or I start thinking that it depends on me for people to have a good experience when they come here and they're a part of this place. And man, listen, all right, I know how incredibly egotistical that is, all right, that to even have those thoughts, like it's painful to say that out loud, that sometimes, if I'm being honest, that those thoughts get in my head. That sometimes, if I'm being honest, like I start to think that, all right? And I know that that's not true. I know that that's just prideful, and I know that, all right? But if we're being honest this morning, all right, we all do this sometimes, right? Like we start to think that other people's happiness depends on us, that other people's future maybe depends on you in some way, or maybe even, all right, maybe even somebody's salvation might depend on us. And we start thinking that, we start feeling that way, it gets overwhelming, it's too much. And the reason why is because that is a pressure and a weight that God never meant for us to carry. It's way too much. See, it doesn't depend on you. Production doesn't depend on you. Production depends on him. We just have to stay connected. And so, man, when you look at redemption and all the amazing things that have taken place over the life of this church in the last 20 years, man, that's not an us thing, right? The lives that have been changed, the families that have been impacted, the addictions that have been overcome. I mean, the stories that could be told because of this church, man, it's incredible, but it's not us, all right? And Daryl Land, I love Daryl, and I know I poke fun at him a lot, but Daryl's awesome, all right? And he's been such a big part of this place, but this isn't a Daryl thing, all right? And I love our staff. We have an amazing staff here, incredible people to work with, talented, smart. I mean, I love our staff, but this is not a staff thing. And our volunteers, man, you guys are great, and we need you, and we're thankful for you, but this stuff is not a volunteer thing. Like, this is not an us thing. What has taken place here, the ministry here, the impact here, this is not an us thing. This is a Jesus thing. It's a Jesus thing. See, he's the vine and we're the branches. It's just our job to stay connected to him. and he provides the growth, and he provides the fruit. This is a Jesus thing. Just stay connected to him. And now when Jesus first introduces this sort of metaphor, back in verse 1 of chapter 15, there's something really important that he says there. Look at John 15:1. He says, I am the true vine. And I know, all right, it sounds like I'm just repeating the same thing over and over again, but there's something just different enough here that's really, really significant, all right? Jesus says, I am the true vine. See, when he says that he's the true vine, he sort of implies that there are some other fake vines, some sort of imposter vines, some impersonator vines, some vines that aren't the real thing, they're fake vines. And that if we're not careful, we can buy into these fake vines and they make some promises, right? Like fake vines promise that they'll provide strength. Fake vines promise that they'll provide meaning and that they'll provide enough and that they'll sustain you and fulfill you and they'll do all these things. They make all these promises, but the fake vines let you down. And some of us, we know, like we've tried the fake vines, we've bought into their promises and we've felt the effects of when those promises get broken and the letdown. And so maybe some of us, like maybe you thought that the true vine in your life was going to be your spouse, that they were going to be your everything, that they would complete you and fulfill you and, add purpose to your life. And so you got married and you thought that was going to be that person, but inevitably they can't live up to that. Like all that stuff that only Jesus can really provide, they can't provide that. And so when they inevitably come up short, maybe you start thinking that you married the wrong person because that person, they can't be your true vine. Maybe some of you thought your true vine was going to be your children, that they were going to be the thing that fulfill you, and they'd bring purpose, and they'd bring meaning to your life in all these significant ways. And maybe you thought that, or on the flip side, you thought that you were going to be that for them. But it turns out that they're not, and you're not, because they're not your true vine, and you're not theirs. And there's so many other examples of these fake vines. It's endless. The accomplishments that you could make, the career that you could have, the education you could get, the leaders that we put our hope in, like all these fake vines, all these imitation vines, and they all just let you down. And Jesus is saying, don't be fooled. He says, I'm the true vine. Don't be fooled by the fakes. And he goes on. Verse 11, he tells us why he's saying all this. He kind of explains it to us. Verse 11 of 15, he says, I've told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. And so basically, Jesus is saying, listen, there is no other vine, none of these other things that can fulfill your life like I can. I'm the only one that can fill you up. I'm the only one that can complete you. I'm the only one that can add purpose and joy. In fact, only in me will you find so much joy that it overflows out of your life. And so again, man, he says there's all these fake vines out there, and we've tried them, right? Like you can think of the ones in your life that you've bought into and you've tried. I'll be honest with you, there's a fake vine in my life that I've been pursuing for joy for the past several years. And it's a fake vine that goes by the name of turkey bacon. And I know guys, like listen, I'm not proud of it, all right, but I'm coming clean this morning, is that I bought into the lie, right? Like they said, listen, it's better for you. And they said, like, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference. That's what they said. They said, it tastes just as good as real bacon. And guys, like I bought into it, all right? Like I was eating this stuff and let me just tell you, it is not the same. All right? Like even those two words, if you just think about like turkey and bacon, they don't belong together, all right? Those are not, the turkey is not bacon. It's like having broccoli pancakes, all right? Those two, those do not go together. It's not the same thing. It's not real, all right? And so just a few months ago, I was home and I was still doing the turkey bacon thing, right? And my brother was there and he is not a turkey bacon person. My mom loves us both, so she made both. And so we're going back and forth and he's like, I can't believe you eat that stuff and, talking all this nonsense. And I'm arguing with him. I'm like, man, it's just as good. It's healthier. You can't tell the difference. And so finally, this argument, he's like, we'll do a taste test, all right? And so he's like, I'll try some of your turkey bacon. You try some of the real stuff. And so we did. And I tried real bacon for the first time in a long time. And the argument was over, all right? Like he won, he wins. Like that was the end of it right there. It was so good, all right? And so I just want to tell you this morning, right? If you're out there and you're eating turkey bacon, you need to try real bacon so that your joy will overflow, all right? Like Because here's the point, right? It's because there's nothing like the real thing. That's what Jesus is saying. Like you can try the fake stuff, you can try the imitations, all right? And they may be okay for a while, all right? They may look like the real thing and they can they can pass, but eventually those fake things, those imitation things, they will let you down. And Jesus never will. Jesus will never let you down. He's the real thing. He never disappoints. So he goes on, look at verse 6 of this, you jump back up. It says, anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. So do you know what you call a branch that is no longer connected to the vine? It's a stick, right? That's all it is. It's just a stick, right? Like it's disconnected. It's not alive anymore. It's just a stick. And let me tell you, that would be a terrible mantra, all right? Be the stick. Nope. Nobody wants to be the stick, right? Just a bunch of stick in the mud Christians. We've already got too many of those, all right? We don't need any more of that. Nobody wants to be the stick. You know what you do with sticks? You gather them up and you throw them away, right? You just gather them, you throw them in the burn pile, and you get rid of them. And so this morning, I brought a stick with me, all right? And it's dead, and you can tell, which I don't know why I tell you it's dead like it's a snake, all right? It's not dangerous, you guys know, it's just a stick, all right? But I cut this off a tree in the backyard, and so it's not alive anymore, all right? It's no longer connected, it's just a stick. And I tied some fruit to it, and the fruit is not real either, right? It's fake fruit, it's not real stuff. I bought it, and yeah, it's just plastic and a stick. That's all that this is, all right? But here's the thing, all right? From a distance, if you just look at this, it could appear like real fruit, right? Like it's believable. It could pass, like, you know, if you're just looking, you know, from a little ways off, or maybe like if you're looking on the video, like over in Lagodi, like these might pass for real grapes. Like it looks like the real thing, you know, it's okay. But if you get up close, all right, and you really like look at it, you can tell. Like it's not real. If you kind of feel them a little bit, you're like, yeah, that doesn't seem right. Like I don't think that's real fruit at all. And if you tasted it, you would know for sure. You'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was. It's not real. Those are fake grapes, those are fake apples. Like you would know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not the real thing. But here's my fear, is that maybe way too often that this is what we're settling for. Just to appear like the real thing. That we can appear like there's some fruit in our lives, and we can fake it pretty good, right? And we look pretty good from a distance, and we look like we've got it all together, and we look like we've got this whole, like, Jesus, like, we got it figured out, like, I'm doing this, you know, and it looks good from a distance. But here's the thing. When people get close, right? When people really spend some time with us, and they really get to inspect it, and especially, all right, if they get a taste of it, then they want nothing to do with the fake stuff. And here's what's really scary, is that if this is someone's first experience with fruit, and they think that this fruit is what all fruit tastes like, and so later on when they get a chance to have real fruit, they want nothing to do with it. They won't give it a chance anymore because they already had too bad of an experience. See, guys, it's just a stick in plastic fruit, and can I tell you, I don't want to be a church of sticks and plastic fruit. I don't want to be that. You know what that kind of church looks like? That's the kind of church where everybody shows up and everybody looks Instagram ready. Like they're dressed really nice and they smile really big and they act like everything's fine. They kind of do that whole fake fine thing, you know what I'm talking about? That's more known for its facilities than it is for its hospitalities. It's the kind of church that's more flashy than it is faithful. It's the kind of church that's way more focused on their seating capacity than they are on their sending capacity, the real thing. And here's the deal, if we're not careful, all right, that can happen so easily. These things, they're not good, and they suck the life out of whatever they're connected to. And so if they start growing on a plant or they start growing on a tree, they just suck up all the nutrients and they suck up all the water. And if you get enough of them on a tree, then eventually it'll stop producing fruit. And if you get even more of them on there, eventually the tree will just die. All right, and here's the thing. If you get enough sucker branches on a church, then the church will die. Are you a branch that's bearing fruit, or are you just anything? right? Like, so you take and take and take, but you never give to come and to ask questions, all right? And we will love you, and we'll do the best to answer those questions and know that he provides, all right? It's not on us. I'm not telling you to go and produce this stuff on your own. I'm telling you to get connected to Jesus, because a life connected to Jesus, man, there's fruit in that. And there's production. Me, if you're being the branch and my words remain in you, then you may ask for anything. I've been praying about this truck, like been thinking about some nice things I'd want. Be good to get out on the lake this summer. Change. And so you start asking for and requesting and even attempting to start to do in your life. And so just on a personal level, maybe for some of you, being the branch means overcoming an addiction. Whether that be to a substance, to pornography, to just a bad habit, or whatever it is, but you overcome an addiction. And it may be something you've tried before on your own and you failed. You tried to kick this habit, you tried really hard, and you white knuckle gripped this thing, and you were gonna just muscle your way to overcome it, but it didn't work. But being the branch means doing things that you can't do on your own. And so don't do this on your own. Ask for help. Ask Jesus to help you overcome this struggle. Ask for God's people to help you overcome this struggle. Because being the branch means being connected to Jesus. It also means being connected to the people of God. And so don't do this on your own, but ask for help, and maybe you can overcome that thing in your life. Maybe being the branch means in your marriage you don't give up. Maybe things aren't going really well right now, that it's been rough, and maybe it's been rough for a while. And I don't know if things were said, or maybe nothing's been said. And it's the silence that's deafening and that speaks volumes. But things aren't going good, and all indicators say that it's over. And maybe it's time to move on, to cut your losses, to just quit. But being the branch means that you don't quit. It means that you trust God to heal what you could never heal. And you trust God to fix the mess that only he can clean up. And being the branch means that you're gonna keep going even when you feel like quitting, and you don't give up on your marriage. Maybe that's what it means. Maybe being the branch means serving. That you're gonna get involved in an area that you never felt qualified to do before. Get involved in an area where you never felt like you were enough, or maybe an area where you were just intimidated and scared and felt like, I can't do that. But being the branch means that production doesn't depend on you. Production depends on the vine. And so you're just gonna stay connected to Jesus and serve wherever you see a need. And you trust him to provide everything that's necessary. Maybe that's what being the branch means. Or maybe being the branch means getting reconnected. That you've been distant for a while, you got separated from the vine, and maybe that's because you bought into some of that fake fruit, right? You bought into some of those fake vines, and so you got distracted, and you got let down, and maybe you got hurt, and so you walked away from the church. You need to be grafted back in. You say, Jesus, graft me back in, reconnect me, and he will. Or maybe for some of you got disconnected during COVID, that over this past year, man, things were crazy, right? And everything was online and stuff was canceled, even church. And if we're being honest, we all got a little bit disconnected, right? Like we weren't here and things felt weird. And so you were off for a little bit and you were disconnected. And I don't know your circumstances. I don't know where you're at, all right? But maybe what was a real excuse several months ago, maybe for some of us, it's just a fake excuse. It's just a good reason to stay home and to stay disconnected, and it's easier to sleep in. And maybe it's time to come back and get plugged back in to the church. For us as a church as a whole, I'll tell you what it means is a really similar thing, that it means that we want to do some things that we know will fail if God isn't in it. That if Jesus isn't a part of this, there's no way we can accomplish that. And we'll talk about these throughout this series, but one of those things is putting a third campus in Tell City. That we want to start that campus. We feel like God is calling us to that campus. And man, I'll be honest with you, coming out of this last year with all the craziness, all the stuff that everybody knows about, like, man, it's not been easy to do things. And a lot of churches would say that this doesn't make a lot of sense to start a campus right now. That on paper, this doesn't make a lot of sense. That it makes more sense to circle the wagons right where we're at and to play it safe for a little bit. We can just kind of huddle up and stay right where we're at. But being the branch means that you trust God when he calls, and we feel like God is calling us to Tell City. And so we're stepping out in faith to do something that we know won't work if God's not in it, because that's what being the branch is. So as a church, all right, at Redemption, we're ready to be the branch. We want to be the branch. I just want to ask you guys, are you ready to be the branch with us? Let's pray. Father God, Lord, we thank you so much for being a God that reaches out to people like us, and you use us. And you bear fruit in our lives when we couldn't possibly do that on our own. And so God, this morning, I just pray for those who are disconnected, for whatever the reason, that this morning they come back and they get reconnected to the true vine, reconnected to you. Jesus, for those of us here, I just pray that you would use us in some way. That it's not about what we do, it's not about our production, it's about connection. And God, we just want to be so connected to you that our lives overflow with joy and our lives overflow with fruit, and that we can be the branch that reaches others for Jesus. That's our prayer. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, right now we're going to go into a time of communion. And so if you grab one of those cups on the way in, I'm going to give you just a couple minutes here in a little bit to spend some time taking that. But here's what that is. Like, we talk about Jesus and what he's done and how he is the true vine. It's because it's Jesus' body that was broken for us. All right? The juice that's in there represents the blood of Christ that was poured out for us. That's what covers us. That's what makes us right. That is what provides the production in our lives. All right? The grace that overflows from us, the grace that overwhelms us and covers us, that's what all of that is about. His body, his blood that was poured out for us. And so right now, I'm going to give you a few minutes. Again, this is just for the believer. You don't have to take this, but man, think about what that means.
Bears one another's burdens. We'll have some people down front here that are willing to pray with you. If you're watching online and you want to pray with somebody, just let us know that in the comments, and we'll be happy to pray for you. But if you want to follow Jesus, you want to be obedient to him in baptism, we would love to talk to you about that. So let's stand and sing, and if you have that response in mind, let's respond now. As I rise, strength of God, go before, lift me up. As I wait, eyes of God, look upon, be my side. As the wind, heart of God, satisfied and sustained. As I hear the voice of God, will lead me on, be my guide, be my guide. Defense by my side. As I rest, the breath of God will fall upon, bring me peace, bring me peace above and below me, before and behind me. shed for every moment, every moment. Your life, your death, your blood was shed for every moment, every moment. Your life, your death, your blood was shed for every moment, every moment. Your life, your death, your blood was shed for every moment, every moment. Above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me, may Christ be all around me. Above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me, may Christ be all around me. Christ be all around me, Christ be all around me,
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. You give light, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord.
Amen. Amen. May that be true.
Paralyzed with fear, looking back on days gone by, trusting you will heal. The enemy pursues me, guess I'm a disappointment. Doing everything I can, I don't wanna make you disappointed. Things annoy you. I just wanna make you feel like everything I ever did was never trying to make an issue for you. But I guess the more you thought about everything, you were never even wrong in the first place, right? Yeah, I'ma just ignore you, walking towards you. With my head down, looking at the ground, I'm embarrassed for you. Paranoia. What did I do wrong this time? That's parents for you. Very loyal. Should've had my back, but you put a knife in my hands before. What else should I carry for you? I care for you, but on the edge right now. I wish that I could say I'm proud. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down. All these voices in my head get loud. I wish that I could shut them out. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down. Yeah. You don't wanna make this work, you just wanna make this worse. Want me to listen to you, but you don't ever hear my words. You don't wanna know my hurt yet. Let me guess, you want an apology, probably. How can we keep going at a rate like this? We can't, so I guess I might have to leave. Please don't come after me. I just wanna be alone right now. I don't really wanna think at all. Go ahead, just drink it all. Both know you're gonna call them on like nothing's wrong. Ain't that what you always do? I feel like every time I talk to you, you're in an awful mood. What else can I offer you? There's nothing left right now. I give it all to you. On the edge right now. I wish that I could say I'm proud. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down. All these voices in my head get loud. I wish that I could shut them out. I'm sorry that I let you down. Let you down. Yeah. Don't talk down to me, that's not gonna work now. Packed all my clothes and I moved out. I don't even wanna go to your house. Every time I sit on that couch, I feel like you lecture me. Eventually, I bet that we could've made this work and probably would've figured things out. But I guess I'm a letdown, but it's cool, I checked out. Oh, you wanna be friends now? Okay, let's put my fake face on and pretend now. Sit around and talk about the good times. That didn't even happen. I mean, why are you laughing? Must have missed that joke, let me see if I can find a reaction. No, but at least you're happy. Feels like we're on the edge right now.